planet of Zynar lay under the shimmering light of twin suns, casting a surreal glow over the crystalline spires of the Queen's palace. It was unlike anything the protagonist, a seasoned diplomat named Jason Walker, had ever seen. The air hummed with an unfamiliar energy, a mix of mysticism and alien technology. Jason adjusted the collar of his standard diplomatic uniform, the weight of the task pressing on him. Today, he was here not just as a negotiator, but as a representative of the human race. Jason had been through countless peace talks, but none quite like this. The Zynar, an ancient civilization with advanced technology and an intricate social structure, were reluctant to ally with humanity. Their queen, Queen Arathis, was known for her wisdom but also her impenetrable demeanor. The diplomatic crew had warned him that any misstep could lead to disaster. The throne room, with its towering columns of glowing stone, was filled with high-ranking Zenari dignitaries. They stood in solemn silence as the queen entered, a figure both regal and terrifying. Her golden armor gleamed in the dim light, and her presence commanded the room. The queen was a sight to behold, but Jason had learned long ago not to let his awe show. He bowed respectfully as she took her seat upon a raised platform, surrounded by her personal guard. Jason's eyes briefly flicked to the queen's bodyguard, a towering warrior who stood by the queen's side. The bodyguard's posture was rigid, her sharp eyes scanning the room with an intensity that made everyone nervous. She was unlike anyone Jason had ever encountered, strong, poised, and seemingly without a trace of emotion. Her name, as he had learned, was Zera. Zera's dark armor, engraved with intricate designs, seemed to absorb the light around her. Her presence radiated power and control, and Jason couldn't help but wonder what kind of training she had undergone to attain such an esteemed position. She wasn't just a protector, she was a symbol of the Queen's strength. The meeting began, and Jason's nerves settled as the negotiation proceeded. The language barrier was minimal, thanks to the universal translators in their communicators, but the subtleties of Zenari politics were not. Jason had to tread carefully, ensuring that every word he spoke was precise and respectful. The room was heavy with tension, but he had dealt with similar situations before. Different species, different cultures, but the stakes were always the same: peace. As the discussion wore on, the tone in the room remained formal. The Queen spoke with great authority, her voice calm and unwavering. Jason responded with measured words, attempting to bridge the gaps between humanity's needs and the Zynari's hesitations. Time seemed to stretch as the exchange continued, and Jason felt his eyes growing heavier, the weight of the conversation slowly draining his energy. Suddenly, as the Queen's gaze turned toward her bodyguard, Jason felt an impulse to lighten the mood. He was known for his ability to read a room, to make people feel at ease in the most tense of situations. But Zynari humor wasn't exactly something Jason had mastered yet. With a soft chuckle, Jason leaned toward the translator and made a comment, half joking, half earnest. "I must say, your bodyguard here," he nodded toward Zera, who stood at attention by the Queen's side, "could probably single-handedly stop any would-be assassin. She's impressive. Maybe I need to hire her for my own security." The words left his mouth before he could stop them, but it was too late. He flashed a quick smile at Zera, who stood stoically, her eyes never leaving him. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence. Jason immediately realized he might have said the wrong thing. To his surprise, the bodyguard, Zera, gave a soft laugh, a sound that caught everyone off guard. It was not a laugh of mockery or disdain, but one of genuine amusement. The Queen, who had been silent during the exchange, raised an eyebrow as Zera's deep voice broke through the stillness. "Oh, no," Zera said, her eyes still locked on Jason's with an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. "You have it wrong, human.
You are not just any diplomat here. You're my husband."
The words echoed through the throne room, causing a stir among the dignitaries. Jason blinked, unsure if he had heard her correctly. A few of the Zenari present looked at one another, as if trying to decipher her meaning. Was this some form of Zanari humor he didn't understand? Before Jason could respond, Zara turned her head toward the queen. Harathi sat still, her gaze unwavering, but there was a slight twinkle in her eye. Was it amusement or something else? Zara's laughter died down, and the bodyguard's expression grew more serious as she looked back at Jason.
Do you not understand? Zara asked, her voice now softer, almost playful. You, diplomat, are my chosen, and there is no turning back from this. Jason's heart raced.
Chosen? He couldn't have heard her correctly. The whole room seemed to breathe in unison, waiting for the diplomatic fallout. But what was even more puzzling was the way Zara had said it, so casually, as if it was nothing out of the ordinary. Had he just been married to the Queen's bodyguard in the middle of a formal negotiation? Jason looked around at the Zanari dignitaries, all of whom seemed to be waiting for a response. The tension in the room was thick, but Jason's mind was still trying to process what had just happened. Was Zara joking? He didn't know. But one thing was certain. He wasn't going to live this down anytime soon. Jason stammered, glancing back at Zara, who now stood a little closer to him. I think we might have gotten off on the wrong foot here. Zara's lips curled into a small, knowing smile, her posture remaining rigid and proud.
Not at all, human. The Queen and I both know the truth.
You will see in time. The Queen finally spoke, her voice calm and composed as always, though Jason could hear a slight amusement in her tone. This is indeed a rare thing, but, diplomat, I must warn you, Zara's words are not without meaning. Your future here will be far from ordinary. Jason swallowed hard. The Queen's cryptic words hung in the air, and he couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. He had come to Zynar to broker peace, but it seemed that the galaxy had other plans for him. As the meeting continued, Jason couldn't shake the feeling that his joking comment had set something into motion, a chain of events he couldn't possibly understand yet, and a relationship with Zara that was far more complicated than he had ever imagined. The days following Jason's unexpected marriage to Zara were filled with strange glances and awkward moments. He couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was at play, that his accidental joke had somehow unraveled a part of the Zanari culture that he wasn't prepared for. Despite Zara's playful teasing, Jason began to notice small signs that suggested her comment wasn't entirely a joke. The way the Queen's eyes twinkled when she observed him, the way Zara seemed to watch him with a mixture of affection and responsibility. It all felt strange, yet undeniably real. After the formal meeting had ended, Jason found himself staying in the palace for several more days. The Zinari had insisted on providing him with accommodations, claiming that it was customary for visiting diplomats to stay close to the Queen while their talks were ongoing. At first, Jason had thought it was a courtesy, but now he began to feel that there was a deeper reason for the invitation. Perhaps it was all tied to Zara's strange proclamation. One evening, after a long day of discussions with various officials, Jason retired to his room in the palace. It was a spacious chamber, decorated with alien artifacts and shimmering fabrics that glowed softly in the dim light. Jason sat on the bed, his thoughts swirling as he pondered what had happened in the throne room. He couldn't make sense of Zara's words.
You are my chosen.
There is no turning back from this. What did that mean?
Was it some kind of cultural ritual, or was it something more personal? Just as he was beginning to drift into a deep thought, there was a knock at the door. Jason stood up quickly, wondering who it could be at this late hour. He walked over and opened the door to reveal Zara, standing just outside, her tall figure framed in the dim hallway light. Jason's heart skipped a beat. It wasn't unusual to see her, but the way she stood there now, her arms crossed, looking both calm and assertive, sent a shiver down his spine. He couldn't quite place it, but something about her presence felt different tonight. "You're late," Jason said with a weak attempt at humor, trying to break the silence that hung between them. Zara's lips curled into a small, knowing smile. I had to make sure the others were finished with their negotiations before I came. Her voice was softer than usual, and there was an unspoken tension in the air. Jason stepped aside to let her in, unsure of what was about to happen. As she entered, he closed the door behind her, and they both stood there in silence for a moment, the weight of their shared history lingering in the space between them. I never thought we'd be in this position, Jason said, his voice quieter now. He leaned against the wall, crossing his arms.
I mean, marrying a bodyguard?
He let out a nervous laugh, but Zara didn't respond in the same playful manner she had before. Her expression was serious, almost somber. I know you think I was joking, Jason, she said, her eyes locking onto his. But I wasn't. It's the truth. Jason felt a chill run down his spine. He had wondered if it was all just some misunderstanding, a cultural difference he hadn't grasped. But as he looked into her eyes now, he knew she wasn't playing a game. There was something deeper at work here. Something beyond a casual remark.
Then why didn't you say something earlier? Jason asked, feeling a growing sense of confusion. Why the joke? Why didn't you just tell me what this all means?
Zara sighed, taking a step closer to him.
It wasn't the right time.
There are things about my position, about the Queen, that you don't know yet. Things that, once revealed, will change everything.
Jason frowned. What are you talking about?
She didn't immediately respond, but instead, she took a seat at the small table by the window, her posture still imposing, her gaze unwavering.
I am not just a bodyguard, Jason. I'm the Queen's protector, yes, but that's not the only reason I'm here. I was chosen for this role because I have a unique bond with her, a bond that connects me to the very core of Zenari society. Jason walked over to the table and sat across from her, leaning forward.
A bond? What does that mean? Zara hesitated, as if searching for the right words.
It's a long story. But to put it simply, Jason, the Queen and I are more than just ruler and servant. We are... She paused, as if the words themselves were hard to say. We are linked by something older, something ancient. It is the reason I protect her, and the reason I've been placed in this position. But our bond goes beyond that.
Jason's mind raced.
What are you trying to tell me? Zara met his eyes, her expression growing even more serious.
I wasn't joking when I said you were my chosen.
In Zenari culture, there are those who are destined for greater roles. You, Jason, are a part of that destiny. I have been waiting for someone like you to come into my life, someone who will help us face what's to come. Jason's head spun with her words.
Destiny? You're telling me I'm part of your fate? Zara nodded slowly, her eyes never leaving his.
In a way, yes, but there is more.
The Queen, my Queen, has her own part to play in this, and you are tied to her future as much as you are tied to mine. It's not something I can explain easily, but you will understand soon enough. Jason swallowed hard, trying to process what she was saying.
It sounded like something out of an ancient prophecy, a story from another time, one that he had never believed in.
But now, sitting across from Zara, he felt a sense of gravity, a pull toward something far bigger than himself. So, you're saying that I'm here because of some cosmic plan?
Some fate that ties me to you and the Queen? Jason asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. Zara stood, her presence growing even more powerful as she moved closer to him.
Yes, Jason, the Queen has seen the signs.
She knows you are important, and she knows that our paths have crossed for a reason. It's not just about peace between our worlds. It's about something far greater. Something that will affect the future of our galaxy. Jason leaned back in his chair, his mind reeling. Was this really happening? Was he really being drawn into some ancient prophecy, some cosmic destiny that he couldn't possibly understand. It felt unreal. Yet there was a part of him that couldn't deny the connection he felt with Sarah. It wasn't just about her being a bodyguard, or even her strange declaration of marriage. It was something deeper, something that called to him, that resonated within him in a way he couldn't explain.
I don't know what to think, Jason said finally, his voice heavy with uncertainty. But I trust you, Zara. I don't know what all of this means, but I'm with you. If we're meant to face this together, then I'll stand by your side.
Zara smiled softly, a genuine smile that seemed to soften her usually hard demeanor.
You're not just standing by me, Jason. You're standing with me.
And together we will face what's coming. The days that followed Zara's confession seemed to stretch on endlessly. Jason couldn't shake the weight of her words, which echoed in his mind like an unspoken truth he wasn't yet ready to understand. He had come to Zynar with one purpose: to negotiate a peaceful alliance. But now, it seemed, he was caught up in something much larger, something that involved the Queen and her mysterious bodyguard. Despite the confusion, Jason couldn't ignore the pull he felt toward Zara. There was something about her, something deep and ancient, that resonated with him in a way he couldn't explain. It was more than just attraction.
It was as if their fates had been intertwined long before their first meeting in the throne room.
He spent his days in meetings with the Queen, discussing terms for the alliance, but his thoughts kept drifting back to Zara.
He had to admit, his initial assumption that she was just a bodyguard was wrong. She was more than that. So much more. The mysterious connection she had to the Queen and to him was something he couldn't ignore. One evening, after another long day of talks, Jason found himself walking the palace halls, his footsteps echoing softly against the marble floors. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings, each telling stories of the Zanari people's history, stories of war, peace, and ancient alliances. Jason couldn't help but wonder where he fit into this grand narrative. As he turned a corner, he found himself face to face with Zara. She was standing by a large window, looking out over the vast landscape of Zynar. The twin suns were setting, casting a golden light over the horizon. Her expression was unreadable, and for a moment, Jason just stood there, watching her.
You've been avoiding me, Zara said, her voice low but steady.
She didn't turn to face him, but he could hear the hint of a question in her words. Jason hesitated before speaking.
I haven't been avoiding you. I've just been thinking. About what? Zara asked, finally turning to meet his gaze.
Her eyes were intense, and Jason felt as though she could see right through him.
I don't know what to think, Zara, he admitted. I didn't come here to get involved in anything like this. I came to negotiate.
But now it feels like everything's been turned upside down. Zara stepped closer to him, her presence commanding.
Everything has been turned upside down because you're here, Jason. You're a part of something much bigger than you realize.
And you need to understand that what happens next is not just about you and me. It's about the future of both our worlds. Jason looked at her, still trying to grasp the enormity of what she was saying. What do you mean? What's going to happen? Zara's expression softened slightly and she took a deep breath.
I'm not just a bodyguard, Jason.
I'm part of the Queen's inner circle, yes. But there's something more. The Queen and I share a bond, a connection that goes back to ancient times. We are linked by something older than our people's history, older than our planet. We are bound by fate.
Jason frowned. Bound by fate?
What does that even mean? Zara paused before speaking again, her voice barely above a whisper. The Queen is not just a ruler. She is the keeper of an ancient power, a power that has been passed down through generations. But that power is dying, Jason. It's fading, and the Queen knows it. That's why she needs you. Jason's heart skipped a beat. She needs me?
I got buzzed with a battle and it too late.
Why? Zara met his gaze, her eyes filled with a mixture of resolve and sadness. The Queen's power is tied to the balance of our world. Without that power, Xynar will fall into chaos. There is a prophecy, Jason, one that has been passed down for centuries. It speaks of a human, someone from another world, who will come and restore the balance. You are that human. Jason stared at her, stunned. Me?
I'm just a diplomat. I don't have any powers.
I can't save anyone. Zara shook her head, her expression serious.
You don't need powers, Jason. What you need is to understand the significance of your presence here.
The prophecy isn't about strength or magic. It's about unity, about bringing two worlds together. You and the Queen. Your bond, whatever it is, will bring that unity. Together, you will restore the balance. Jason felt a wave of disbelief wash over him. It all sounded so impossible, but Zara's words had an undeniable weight to them. He could see the sincerity in her eyes, the way she believed in what she was saying, and a part of him, deep down, wanted to believe it too.
I don't understand, Jason said,
his voice filled with frustration.
How can I possibly be the one to restore balance? I don't know anything about this world or the Queen's power or whatever prophecy you're talking about. Sarah stepped closer, her voice softening. That's why you're here, Jason. To learn.
To understand. The Queen chose you for a reason.
And now, it's time for you to embrace your role.
Jason shook his head, still struggling to wrap his mind around everything she had said.
But what if I can't do it? What if I fail? Zara's expression softened, and she placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch surprisingly gentle.
You won't fail, Jason. You have a purpose here.
It's not something you can control, but it's something you must accept. The fate of Xynar and Earth is intertwined, and only together can we ensure a future for both our worlds. Jason stood in silence for a moment, processing her words. Everything was happening so fast. One moment he was a diplomat negotiating peace, and the next he was at the center of an ancient prophecy that could change the course of two civilizations. It felt like he was losing control, like the universe was pushing him towards something he didn't understand.
You're not alone in this, Zara continued, her voice steady. I will be with you every step of the way.
Together, we will face whatever comes next.
Jason looked at her, the weight of her words settling over him. He wasn't sure what the future held, or if he was truly ready for the responsibility that lay ahead.
But one thing was clear. He couldn't turn back now. The choices he made in the coming days would shape not just his fate, but the fate of both their worlds.
I'll do it,
Jason said quietly, the words slipping from his mouth before he even realized it.
I'll help you.
I'll help the Queen. Zara's eyes softened and she gave him a small, approving nod. You've made the right choice, Jason. The road ahead won't be easy, but together we will see it through. As Jason stood there, looking out over the vast landscape of Xynar, he couldn't help but feel a strange sense of certainty. The path ahead was unclear, but he wasn't alone. Zara, the Queen, and the prophecy, whatever it meant, were all part of something much larger than himself. And now, there was no turning back. The days following Jason's decision to help Zara and the Queen were filled with a mixture of anticipation and dread. The prophecy that Zara had revealed to him weighed heavily on his mind, and though he was determined to see this through, a part of him still questioned whether he was the right person for the task. It was a quiet morning when the Queen summoned him to the palace's inner chambers. The sun had barely risen over Xynar's twin suns, casting a soft glow across the planet's surface. Jason walked through the long corridors of the palace, his steps echoing softly against the stone walls. The grandeur of the palace had once seemed overwhelming, but now it felt more like a maze he had to navigate. As he approached the chamber where the queen was waiting, he couldn't help but feel the weight of the responsibility settling deeper in his chest. He had accepted his role in this ancient prophecy, but the reality of it was becoming more overwhelming with each passing day. When Jason entered the chamber, he found the queen standing by the large window, gazing out at the sprawling city below. The room was serene, filled with an almost tangible sense of calm that Jason couldn't quite explain. The queen turned to face him as he entered, her regal presence as imposing as ever, but there was something softer in her eyes now.
"Jason," she said, her voice steady and calm.
"I know you have questions. I know you're uncertain. But I need you to understand something. This is not just about you and me. It's about the future of both our worlds." Jason nodded, trying to steady his racing thoughts. "I understand, but there's still so much I don't know. I don't even know where to start." The queen's gaze softened as she stepped closer to him. "The first step, Jason, is to trust yourself. Trust that you have been brought here for a reason. You are not just a diplomat anymore."
You are a key part of the future. The prophecy has been set in motion, and there is no going back. Jason swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her words. The path ahead seemed like a long, uncertain road, but he had made a promise.
He would do whatever it took to help Xynar and the Earth avoid the chaos that Zera had warned him about.
"I'm ready," Jason said, his voice steady now. "I'll do whatever I can to help."
The queen nodded, her expression hardening slightly.
Good. We will need to move quickly.
The factions within my court that are against this alliance will not stop just because you've agreed to help.
They will fight us every step of the way.
Jason felt a knot form in his stomach. He had heard rumors of dissent within the queen's court, of political factions that opposed her leadership, but hearing it from her directly made the situation seem much more real.
Do you think we can stop them?
Jason asked, his voice filled with doubt. The queen's gaze grew fierce, her determination shining through.
I have no choice but to stop them.
The future of Xynar depends on it. At that moment, Zera entered the chamber, her towering presence immediately filling the room. Jason turned to face her, his heart racing at the sight of the bodyguard. There was something about Zera that drew him in, something that made him feel like he was part of something much larger than himself.
"We have our work cut out for us," Zera said, her voice low and serious. "The queen is right. There are many in the court who will not accept this alliance.
And there are others who will stop at nothing to see it fail." Zera stepped forward, her eyes never leaving his. "We unite the factions that support us. We use your presence, your status as a human, to sway the court. It won't be easy, but we have no other choice." The queen stepped closer to them, her gaze piercing.
You must understand, Jason, that this is not just about diplomacy.
This is about survival. The forces that threaten us are powerful, and they will stop at nothing to tear us apart. Jason could feel the weight of the queen's words, and though he had never been one for political maneuvering, he knew this was his moment to step up. The future of two worlds rested in his hands, and there was no turning back.
"I'll do whatever it takes," Jason said, his voice filled with determination.
Zera nodded approvingly, and the queen smiled faintly. "Good.
Together, we will restore balance." As the days passed, Jason found himself increasingly immersed in the political struggles of the Zanari court.
He attended meetings, spoke with advisors, and tried to gain the support of the various factions within the palace. But the opposition was fierce. Every step forward seemed to be met with resistance, and Jason began to understand the true weight of the prophecy he had become a part of. Through it all, Zera remained by his side, offering advice, support, and the occasional reassuring word when the weight of their mission seemed too much to bear. Her presence was a constant reminder of the bond they shared, the connection that had been forged between them the moment Jason stepped foot on Zynar. The more time he spent with her, the more Jason realized that his feelings for her were growing stronger. It wasn't just about the prophecy or the mission. It was about her strength, her loyalty, and her unwavering commitment to the Queen and to the future of Zynar. One evening, as they walked together through the palace gardens, Jason couldn't help but feel a sense of calm wash over him. The stars were visible above them, the night sky a blanket of endless possibilities. He turned to Zera, his heart racing. "Zera," he began, his voice uncertain. I never imagined I'd be in a situation like this. I didn't come here to fight wars or change destinies. But now, I can't imagine leaving. I feel like I'm meant to be here. With you. With the Queen. I don't know why, but it feels right." Zera stopped walking, turning to face him. Her expression softened, and for the first time Jason saw a hint of vulnerability in her eyes.
"You are meant to be here, Jason," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "And Dad."
"I meant to be with you." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Jason stepped closer, his heart pounding in his chest. There was so much at stake, so many unknowns in the path ahead, but in that moment, with Zera standing before him, everything felt clear.
"I don't know what the future holds," Jason said, "but I know one thing. I'm not doing this alone."
"I have you, and I have the Queen. Together, we'll face whatever comes." Zera reached out, her hand brushing against his. "Together, Jason, we'll restore balance. And we'll protect the future." In that moment, Jason knew that no matter what came next, no matter how difficult the road ahead might be, he was ready. He had found his place, his purpose, and with Zera by his side, he knew they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The fate of two worlds rested on their shoulders, but Jason wasn't afraid anymore. He had the strength of Zera, the Queen, and the prophecy to guide him, and together they would ensure that the future was one of peace, unity, and hope.